Well, hello, investors and traders. I'm LA Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we're asking ourselves what happened today, and does it tell us anything about the coming ones? Do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It's under the channel LA Little. As far as tonight, I'm a little bit late. Sorry about that. Last night was unavailable, just could not make the show. We'll do our best to hit the rest of the week, and we're going to need to because these markets are heating up again. Things are getting interesting. If we look at the ending numbers, oil down another 5% today. It was down big yesterday. Almost 10% lopped off this thing in 2 days. That's creating a lot of volatility, and you're seeing it in the indexes right across the board. Anywhere from 2 to 3% down across the board. Gold up slightly. Dollar slightly lower, but pretty much sideways, and people run into the bonds. Let's take a look at the charts. As we look at the S&P, we've got price coming down, right? Yesterday we actually had a slight over-under. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the close here yesterday, you actually went up over it, right, over the top, back underneath it slightly, had less volume, right? But it wasn't an extended move. You had all this consolidation. So that's an over-under. That says that you can get a pullback, and that is what we got today. Now, it was mixed, to be fair, and today you did get a little pickup in volume. Key bar, of course, on the way back is this big high volume bar. The top of that bar is going to be a key area. You're not going to want to see it get back into this bar, and that's going to be true of all these charts. So as we look at the other charts here, in particular the Nasdaq, right? Nasdaq, the high of the low, right, which is where all the volume is, 45.15 roughly. Tonight you're at that price point, 45.17. You get into the bar, you stay into the bar, then you can go seek the other side. So big area here. If this market is going to get a lift and get a continued lift, this is where it's going to need to hold. Looking over at the Russell, on the Russell, and then actually you didn't have an over-under on the Nasdaq and the NDX last night. You did on the Russell and the S&P. Russell, same thing. Now the Russell's been the weakest one, so that should be the one that gets into the bar. 1,868 was the number. 1,884, so you're just over the top of it. Again, slight pickup in volume today, but nothing huge. If we look over at the world markets, they were taking it on the chin again today. Here's the DAX. DAX comes back into this low. If you look across the board here, really the volume is on this bar. So the key here on the DAX is going to be up underneath that bar. And so I think anything in here is definitely going to test the lows and potentially break them out. So to me, that bar, that's where the volume is. You never really got outside of it here the last 4. It's going to shoot for that target. Probably try to take it on tomorrow would be my guess. And that's going to be a key spot for this market. If we move on to the DAX, let's look at the CAX next. And I suspect what we're going to see is about the same thing. And coming back into that bar, it's into it now. Again, the bottom of that bar. Now the CAX has been acting a little bit stronger than the DAX, but nothing special. Let's look at the Hong Kong market as well. Hong Kong has been breaking out new lows, as has all of Asia. They got a pretty good push up. They got the over-under as well, get the pullback off of it. So everybody's doing the same thing. It's pretty much in unison. 19,238 is the number on that one, and you're 19,446. So that's where that one's trying to get to. If we look at the currencies over here, we got the Draghi bar still holding up. So the euro, here's the big Draghi bar, still holding inside of it. So really nothing happening there with the euro. Let me pop over and see what the dollar's doing now. There's a lot of talk that the Fed's not going to be able to raise rates, and the dollar has came back into the big Draghi bar as well. So actually the currencies are looking pretty sane. I thought we were going to see some separation off the oil, and it looked as if we would, but now you've had 2 huge spikes back down. Again, no volume on them, but the spike back down. I think oil is going to be the tail of the tape one more time because there's so much fear into that tape at this particular point. Oil looks like it's going to bounce from here, quite frankly. And then we got bonds. Bonds soaring back to the highs. If we pull over a weekly chart on these, you can see here they're up there testing that swing point high. That's where all the volume is. They're going into it with, what do we got? 2 days into it, doing 10 million a day. That's 50. And you got 66 over there. Not going to have the volume. So this week we're going to see if bonds can actually hold up. Bonds have already done an ABCD structure to the upside. Looks to me like bonds should pull back. If that's true, that says equities are not going to be so feared. And if that oil finds support here where it should, again, that should help the equities. So equities have pulled back to the point that they should. Bonds look like they may not be able to get over and hold over that top. Oil, big, fast move to the downside with no volume, should get a bounce. Is there anything in the equities that tells us that? No. Other than the fact that those equities may be an ABCD structure. Let's go back and look at that. You know, when we're looking at the ABCD structure here off the bottom, you came here, right? You came down to test there, and then the ABCD structure takes you up into that area. Haven't gotten there, right, up into that price point, but that's where it's trying to get to. So a little bit farther to the upside, potentially could get back up into the swing point low. That would be an ideal spot to try to run to. It comes up a little bit short in terms of the structure, but right now it's just trying to fight off a failure of an attempt to do an ABCD structure. Now what we should recognize and don't lose fact of is if you pull this back and you look at it from a weekly standpoint, there's the potential for a huge ABCD structure to the downside. And if you look at that, right, you're coming off this bar, you're coming down to the bottom, right, shooting it back up here to this top, right, and then back down again. So the ABCD structure here, potentially, you know, almost a halfway back, half 50% or so. You know, a lot of people like to do the retraces. Usually 38.2 to about 50 is the fib numbers that people watch, and it's in that general area. So if it fails here and heads back down and breaks out these lows, right, that is what's going on. Going to get a clear indication of that prior to that, though. It's not going to take it that long to tell us is in fact that's what it's going to try to do. So I had been looking, or starting to look, did so last week, not last week, but Sunday, with swing point lows, and we were talking about, you know, how do you get a swing point low? Well, it's pretty easy. You see two of them here together, and if you look at those, the way it works, right, and this is kind of the lesson part. I'm going to try to teach you how these charts work, how we can see supply and demand on the charts. If you get a low point, what you do is you count 6 bars. You say, can I go 6 bars without getting a lower low? Your 6th bar is here, and once you get that 6th bar, this one, right, that actualizes that, makes it a swing point low. Until then, it was just potential. Now it's actual. You start when you get the next lowest low, and you get 6 more bars without a low, right, then this one can become a swing point low. And so that's how we find swing point highs and swing point lows. It's algorithmic. We do 60 bars to a chart. There's reasons for that too, and we'll talk about that tomorrow night. As far as tomorrow, you know, it's going to be probably some pressure to start with. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to turn it sometime tomorrow. Got a lot of data coming out tomorrow as well. We'll see how that fits into the whole picture. Folks, thanks for joining me. Thanks for your patience last night and for this late start tonight. But we'll get things back on schedule here and try to stay up with these fast-moving markets. Have a great one. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night, and I'll catch you next time. Good night, folks.